Good morning.
I know you're going to be here in studio next Friday with the boys,
That's
right? With Travis and Chris. So could you do something?
I heard in passing you weren't going to be there, so I decided to hop a plane.
Thanks so much, Carl. That's very sweet of you. And now I'm coming back early, so I'll be back Thursday night. So
there goes my Friday booking.
Yeah. Cats away, mice will play, literally. Could you do something about the rodent problem while you're here? I mean, you are family. Like I said, I said eke a mouse, and that's why you got a plane out here.
I'll make sure that Evan brings his flute, and he can play them away.
Okay. All right. I'm not quite as pathetic as Donald Trump, who is apparently, he's given 22 interviews to book authors trying to get ahead at serving Diet Coke. That'll turn him to try to get ahead of the wave of damaging books. According to reporting,
any of it helped during the administration.
Right. You thank God there's been no damaging books thus far. He spent an hour and a half, 2 hours, and some of the people were then invited to stay and have dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Wow. Can you imagine listening to him drone on about the election for hours while you're... Okay.
I mean, there's a reason why people in the vicinity of Mar-a-Lago have been unable to buy shovels all summer. He's got them all, and he's digging furiously to go deeper.
I mean, he is so pathetic. But, Carl, we talked to Glenn Kirshner yesterday, and obviously a lot of us are getting really anxious about the DOJ. And whether Merrick Garland is the man for this moment. I mean, I get, that we're trying to go the other direction from, what just happened at the DOJ. But how do you do that without there being consequences for what just happened? I mean, now we're in this.
I don't know.
We're in this deadlock again with Congress trying to get Trump's taxes, right? Like it just. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know how. Look, part of me just hopes that. One morning we're going to get an announcement, and that's going to be that.
Right.
But I've been putting more hope in New York than I have been in DOJ these last few weeks.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, Merrick Garland yesterday backed away from doing a broad review of Justice Department politicization under the Trump administration, noting the department's inspector general was already investigating related issues, including aggressive leak hunts and attempts to overturn the election. He said, we always look at what happened before, but I don't want the department's career people to think that a new group comes in and immediately applies a political lens. Are they overcorrecting, Carl? Are they going too much?
I don't know. I do have some trust in the inspectors general. They did a very good job during the Trump administration of exposing corruption and malfeasance throughout his administration. So, they are independent, and we'll see what report they come out with. So, part of me wants to take Merrick Garland at his word that he doesn't want to double up the work. But at the same time, it would seem that certain decisions could be made by our attorney general to do right by the American people after 4 years of just insanity.
Well, I hope Glenn Kirshner is right, and he often is, but said, he does not, that this Reuters piece was wild speculation that the DOJ would defend Trump on January 6th, because that would be the Rubicon, right? I mean, that would just, I mean, even a tourist walking through the Capitol, I don't know what planet they were on. This was intended to halt the very functioning of our government. I mean, to me, that is the line that cannot ever be crossed. The overthrow of the United States
these people
government.
Who are saying they were tourists, these are the same Republican members of Congress who were trying to hold the doors shut. So I don't know when the last time.
Yeah, they weren't out there taking selfies with the peaceful tourists, were they? They were cowering under desks with everybody else. Liz Cheney had to show, what's his name? Was it Gosar, or was it?
Yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah,
from
how
Arizona.
to put his gas mask on because he was, busy in his pants, right? I mean, it's just
He's not that bright.
Oh God, yeah, exactly. He's the one that would put it on.
It goes on your head.
Put it on his ass, right? He put it on his ass.
Right.
Oh, I thought it was for indigestion. No, idiot. It goes on your. Okay. That was
not that kind of gas mask.
I wedged a fart joke in there. Just need a little levity.
He wedged the one in there. Yeah.
In a court filing yesterday, Trump's lawyers gave details about how negotiations are going with Congress over his taxes. The Supreme Court ruled last July lower court judges needed to take a balanced approach to congressional subpoenas, but that Congress does have the authority to subpoena Trump's records. Yes, of course they do. That sent the two parties into a negotiation thanks to the lower court. I know what you mean about you're hoping that, okay, New York already has them. And clearly that's why, a grand jury's been impaneled and there is a there, or they wouldn't be. I mean, Glenn said to us yesterday, if he were the prosecutor, you'd like to get Weisselberg, but you probably don't need him. As Bart McQuaid said to us, they have the documents. Mm-hmm. That's always a stronger case when you always want corroborating people, but they have the documents, right?
Right. Well, and you wonder, we all read the New York Times coverage of his taxes, and that was more limited than what officials in New York have and what members of Congress are seeking. So, we know that there was malfeasance in what the Times reported.
Right.
So we can only imagine what there is in the full documents that they now have. Unfortunately, it feels a lot like Trump and Republicans in Congress are trying to, buy time and hopefully win a majority in 2022 so that they can once again delay the release of these tax documents.
Yeah, cut to why there's bills in 48 states to suppress the vote. I mean, Karl, as a former campaign strategist, what do we do about this? Obviously, it was depressing what happened on voting rights in the Senate. I know a lot of people said it's not over and yada, yada, but it's right. I mean, this is all of these bills based on lies, based on, right? Okay. Oh, by the way, someone wrote a great, because I had the smartest kids in class. I know people have made the point about none of these bills are addressing fraud. They're just trying to keep as many people from voting as possible. But Gary said, Steph, Republican legislatures across the country have passed and are passing laws restricting voter rights. This effort is supposedly designed to protect the voting process from fraud and irregularities that occurred in 2020. So I'm wondering which of these new laws will prevent the following: interference from Italian satellites, Jewish lasers from space, bamboo ballots from China, ballots being fed to chickens, or voting machines being rigged by Hugo Chavez. Thank you. Thank you. Those are the things that are being charged. It doesn't seem like any of these bills cover that. This is how insane we are. How the territory.
It's absolutely. And what's always telling about these right-wing attacks on the ballot is that they claim they're trying to make sure people's ballots are counted. You never once hear any of these proposals coupled with, we're going to expand the number of polling places.
Yeah.
We're going to invest in poll workers so that people don't have to wait in line all day in cities where people of color are voting.
Call me crazy. They won a lot of seats in 2020. Like, I remember thinking when, because of COVID, we did vote by mail. I'm like, this is great. They should expand this because this is what we want in America, is more people to vote. But of course I'm going, oh my God, it's only because Trump lost. They won in a lot of places with vote by mail, right? Senate seats, House seats. It's so insane that we are just trying to now just shrink the electorate as small as possible, right?
That's entirely what it is about. It has nothing to do with anything besides keeping Democrats from voting. And they know that if a person of color, an African-American person, is far more likely to vote Democrat, go after them.
Yeah.
If a Hispanic person is far more likely to vote Democrat, go after them. Students are far more likely to go for Democrats, go after them. But that's why they do this.
Yeah, but Karl, here's what I thought yesterday. Has anyone ever asked a Republican, either on TV, on the floor of the House, why do you accept a what do you call it? A gun, a gun license and not a student ID? Has anyone ever asked them that on the record? What is that about? Is that about anything other than gun owners tend to vote Republican and students tend to vote Democratic? What is the difference between a gun license and a student ID?
Right. And there's probably a lot more work that goes into the student ID than verifying somebody's identity.
Right.
But, the other thing that they're never asked is, why aren't they doing anything to expand the vote? Why do you not trust the presidential election results, but you trust the results that put you in office?
Yeah. Yes, it's all absurd. So speaking of which, we got to talk about Michigan, right? I mean, I don't know whether our democracy hangs by a thread of whatever, subsection of honest, decent Republicans there are, whether it's, was Brad Raffensperger in this last election or so. GOP-led probe finds no evidence of Michigan election fraud and busts Trump allies for purposely defrauding people with ludicrous claims. I mean, because the other thing is, in a lot of these states, they're accusing the Republicans that led that ran the elections of obviously screwing up in some way.